Welcome to the Den. Welcome back to the Den, everybody. As you know, I am Caden Martz, and welcome to episode 6 of our series today. We're going back to normal. We're going to cover every single game of Week 11 of the NFL slate. Super excited to get into this week. There are a lot of high-stakes games, a lot of playoff teams going against each other, kind of giving us a preview for January. So I'm super excited. I hope you all had a great week. I had a pretty good week myself. Super busy, as I'm sure a lot of us are, but why don't we just get straight into it? Let's actually look at the last game of this week first. That was Monday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys took down the Raiders 33-16. And this game, like prime time, when you watch prime time normally, especially this year, it's been pretty boring. But this one, I would say, entertained me a little more than most games, especially because I'm watching this game at the library while I'm doing all my other homework. But a nice win for the Cowboys, right? Moved to 4-5-1. We knew the Cowboys are a competent team with a terrible defense. That's obviously been their story this entire season. But this game, their defense actually looked a lot better. They managed a safety this game. They held Genty to less yards than Geno Smith on the ground. So honestly, like you can tell the additions they've made, and Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams, like they started this game a little slow. Their defense, I think Raiders went down. They got like 2 scoring drives in a row. But you really felt both those players' impact, especially Quinnen Williams. I think he ended with a sack and a half this game. And then Logan Wilson was you heard his name every time on the broadcast. Like every fourth, every fifth tackle, it'd be like Logan Wilson on the tackle. So the Cowboys' plans, although I don't know if I agree with them, it's like kind of a little late in the season to go all in, but they're doing it, right? They're going for it, and it seems to be working. It is the Raiders. I'm really low on the Raiders, probably a bottom 3, bottom 4 team in the league at this moment for me. And so this win over them, especially because they did have some moments where they struggled, um, excuse me, like in their first drive, 3 and out, but that's not really like anyone's fault but their management. They kept CD and George Pickens out of the game for some reason. Obviously, we're not in that locker room. In my opinion, I feel like if you are at the point where you have to withhold players from getting minutes on the field, you should be doing something different in the locker room, and you shouldn't need to discipline grown adults. These aren't guys that have had like crazy track records of discipline stuff in the past. Obviously, George Pickens, he's got like his whole persona, right? When he got drafted, the stance, everybody remembers that video when George Pickens got drafted. But like I understand it. I understand keeping them accountable, but you're like risking your franchise of losing to the Raiders and you just went all in. It's just an interesting decision by Schottenheimer and by that front office, but it ended up working out for them. Obviously once those guys got in the game, they started dominating. CD had a little bit of a quieter one, 5 catches, 66 yards and his touchdowns. But George Pickens, he was everywhere. 9 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown. Those two, I've been saying this for weeks. I think they're probably the best receiver duo in the league. They're up there with like T. Higgins and Jamar, but these guys obviously they have Dak throwing that definitely helps them. But I think CD and Pickens like they're equals, right? And you don't want to prefer one to the other. We saw in this game or this week, Pittsburgh and the Bengals go at it. Jamar kind of got shut down ish because they focused on Jamar. But both these guys produced pretty well today. Javonte Williams of the Cowboys had his most carries on the entire season, 22 carries, only 93 yards. But when you watch the game, it was a pretty efficient game. Like every 1 or 2, you'd have like a 10, 8-ish yard rush. But the Cowboys did have some stall out drives. Like 33 points doesn't sound like a little, but the Raiders had a lot of drives where nothing happened. So they gave, I mean, the Raiders too many chances, I think, for a team that wants to maybe go all in, I guess, as they would probably think of it right now. But Cowboys, it's a win that you're like, all right, we got to win. Let's keep, but we need more, and it is the Raiders. For the Raiders side, as I mentioned, Ashton Genty, 6 carries, 7 yards this game. And like this is a team in the Cowboys that any running back who goes against them, all the Cardinals running back, I think it was DeMarcado that game. Any team that goes to the Cowboys, their like running game explodes that week. I was coming to this one thinking like, okay, Genty, there's a chance, a pretty good chance he's going to do what most of these other running backs have done. And he just had zero opportunity to do that. Obviously, 6 carries is not a lot, and they probably prioritized the passing game that was probably their plan going into it. But like their offensive line is just pitiful right now. And you hate to see Ashton Genty's rookie year where he probably could have had like a rookie of the year campaign if it was a competent O line. It's just nowhere near that right now in Vegas, unfortunately for them. Brock Bowers, who in my last video I had number one in my tight end ranking, 7 catches for 72 yards on 12 targets. They were slinging him the rock today. I think he had a solid outing. He did have a few drops in there for sure. But I mean, you could tell Dallas was really honing in on Brock Bowers this game. Trey Tucker of Vegas also had, a nice touchdown late in the game. Didn't matter too much, I don't think, but really the safety kind of at the end kind of sealed the deal. Nothing Genty could have done. I mean, he made a cut. He probably should have just tried to run through the defender, but he did a little too much, and he was already backed up on his own 1 yard. I'm not going to fault him too much for that. Geno, 27 to 42, 238 yards, a touchdown and a pick. It's Geno Smith, right? It is the Cowboys defense, and if you're not able to get it going on the ground versus the Cowboys, you should 100% at least have some success in the air, which they kind of did, but Geno's just inconsistencies this game and through the whole season have been why their passing game hasn't been able to get going as much. I think Dak also had a good game. 25 of 33, 268 yards and 4 touchdowns. He looked really efficient today, which is something I've wanted from Dak, as he had a few lackluster weeks in the past. But like efficiency again is a great thing, like for any quarterback in the league, and it is the Raiders, so you have to take all this with a grain of salt, in my opinion. But yeah, it's like this is a game. It's kind of how you expected the outcome to happen, and it's just like proving what we know about the Raiders, that they're they're going to need more talent, and they're going to need a different quarterback and probably a different head coach. I don't think Pete Carroll's the guy. I don't really think anyone's too high on Pete Carroll this year. Excuse me, but nice win for Dallas. Nice win, and really, I think the biggest thing, if you're a Cowboys fan, you can be happy about this game, is that Logan Wilson and Quinton Williams made a real impact on this one. Let's rewind a little bit. We're gonna visit the Thursday night game. This was New England at home taking down the Jets. Both the new teams, New England, New York. It's pretty stupid, but they won 27-14. Drake May continues his MVP campaign. I thought he looked pretty good this game. He made a lot of plays that were like high level, There's still some inconsistencies in his passing, but 25 to 34, 281, and a touchdown, no picks. Very efficient from him. Trayvon Henderson wasn't as efficient, but he made enough big plays to make a huge impact on this. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 through the air and 2 on the ground. Nice outing from Trayvon Henderson, who I've been preaching to get more carries in this offense. Not a great game. It's probably around like 3.3, 3.2 per carry. But still, again, making that impact that we talk about. Stephon Diggs is looking electric this entire year. He's had a few down games, but this is definitely not one of them. 9 catches, 105 yards. Mac Hollins, who on other offenses was just kind of a guy on the roster, they've really turned him into a clear wide receiver 2 or a clear real weapon for them ever since that Tampa Bay game where he really popped off. 4 catches, 64 yards in this one for him. So again, same kind of thing in my opinion, and this is 2 different cases, but as that Dallas game, it's a win that should have happened, just kind of as you would have expected it. Justin Fields, interesting conversation. He's getting paid $55 million over the next 3 years. So as an organization, you probably don't want to move off of him, but they probably have to. Only 116 yards and a touchdown, no picks, but a lot of those yards came in like the last nothing drives that didn't matter. He actually did really good on his feet today. Early in the game, that was like their entire offense was Justin Fields just tucking and running. 11 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown for Justin Fields as well. If you're the Patriots, you'd like to probably win by a little more, but there's a lot of teams out there who struggle against bad teams. A lot of good teams out there who struggle against bad teams. And the Patriots have seemed to kind of stay away from that since their week 1 game against the Raiders, who we just talked about as being terrible. But the Patriots, for me, going into this season, my rankings, final rankings have actually looked pretty good so far going into the season and throughout it. But I was so dead wrong about the Patriots. I didn't see any of this happening because I was kind of just evaluating talent. I couldn't have known that Mike Vrabel, he's just going to make an incredible scheme over there. He was, I forget what team it was. It might have been Cleveland. I'm not sure. He was not a head coach. I think he wasn't even like a coordinator. I think he was just on a staff, and New England made the decision to bring him in, which I mean, his firing was a little weird in Tennessee, but it was like, all right, organization has to change something because they're not having success. So head coach was the next guy to go, but he's obviously doing a tremendous job here in New England. But yeah, just nice game. Brees Hall wasn't too efficient, couldn't get too much going, and you probably would have wanted him to get a little more in this game. But only 14 carries for 58 yards, not great. I love to see John Mechie kind of leading this receiving room. 3 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown for him. I'm a big John Mechie fan. I loved him coming out of Alabama. And obviously, his story is really nice. But yes, good win for the Patriots. Nice takeaway. Jets, they're completing their tank job right now. They're doing what they wanted when you traded everyone away. So I guess you can't complain too much as a Jets fan. Next game to look at. This was Pittsburgh at home. Rematch against the Bengals. They went against them this year, and the Bengals actually came away with the dub, but it was a very different story in this one. Kind of at the beginning of this game, I think even going into into the second half, into the third quarter, it was pretty close, but the Joe Burrow pick six is not a great read over the middle. I believe it was, I don't know. I think it's a former Patriot. Kyle Duggar, maybe? I believe it was Kyle Duggar who took it all the way. It was like 70-yard run back to the end zone. He had like the Lamar Jackson high school juke on Jamar Chase. It was a really pretty juke. So good win for the Steelers. But the Rodgers injury is a little scary. I don't think it's too much of a concern for them right now. He not playing great this game. 9 of 15, 116 yards and a touchdown, and he hasn't been playing great weeks before. Mason Rudolph came in, game managed really well. 12 of 16, 127 yards and a touchdown. Nice to see from your backup, especially because it's a little preview of what you're going to have to see probably in the future from him. But my biggest takeaway probably from this one was, or probably two biggest takeaways. One, I thought Kenneth Gainwell looked amazing. He's been a receiving back for a while. It's not a surprise, but he led their entire receiving game, and he was second in their backfield. He had 9 carries today, only 24 yards, but he had 7 catches for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. And there was a drive where they threw it to him probably 3 or 4 times, and he made a play on a defender every single time he caught the ball. Those are where his 2 touchdowns came from. So a nice game from Kenneth Gainwell. Is this going to be consistent? Probably not. It's the Bengals. But the way he looked and the way he was playing, it wasn't like the defense was that bad. Kenneth Gainwell actually looked pretty darn good in this performance. My second thing to take away, and I'll rewind that play of the week, is Darnell Washington stiff-arming just like Derrick Henry, absolutely destroying a Bengals defender, then trucking another one. It was like a 20, 25-yard gain, but he made it look so impressive. He had 4 catches, 67 yards today. Very impressive from Darnell Washington, a guy who everyone loves. He's a freaking giant. Everybody knows that. He's got the build of a left tackle, right? If he could, get his hands a little better and I don't know how he's going to learn to run routes efficiently. I mean, he's got that much size. It's going to be almost impossible. But if they can find a role for him, like a perfect role where they're able to get him maybe these check down routes or these 5-yard in, 5 yards out, there's a real path where Darnell Washington becomes a bigger part of this offense like he was in this game. And I think it was really smart of the Steelers to experiment with him in this game against the Bengals because you already know you're probably going to beat this Bengals defense one way or the other. I thought Chase Brown looked really good today. He's been looking pretty good this entire season. Again, a guy last year there was buzz on him. I did not believe in it at all. This year he's proved me wrong. 18 carries, 99 yards. He's just been, he's out of all the running backs in the league, he might be number 1 on just making quick cuts. Quick outs, like he's one of the shiftiest players in the entire league. Like we mentioned earlier, Jamar Chase, only 3 catches for 30 yards. Not a great game from him, but Ramsey did a good job locking him up until their stupid little debacle. I think Jamar Chase, he just got I think he got a game ban. I think he's gonna be out next week because he spit on and then he denied it, he lied about it. He totally spit on Jalen Ramsey. So I'm not exactly sure why they're banning him. I think spitting on other players is obviously super disrespectful, and I completely understand a fine or something. But Jalen Ramsey to punch him after, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm glad I'm not in the front office having to deal with that right now. T. Higgins looks solid and only 3 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown. But this is why they beat them last time was their offense was able to work while their defense gave up a lot of yards. Their offense wasn't able to work and their defense gave up a bunch of yards and points. So tough loss for the Bengals. This is probably you're 3-7. This is probably the time it's like, all right, even if Burrow comes back, that's probably there's not much he can even do, and he's going to be back pretty soon. I think Joe Flacco's done a solid job in his time here, probably better than most backups would have done. But then again, it is the Bengals offense. You've got a ton of weapons around you, so it's an unfortunate loss for them. A win the Steelers needed, though. A win the Steelers needed if they want to run the AFC North, especially with the Ravens still. Their rise is consistent, and it's probably going to keep. Their wins are probably going to keep stacking up. So Pittsburgh needs to learn consistency right now. And over the last 10 years that Mike Tomlin's been here, they haven't had that. They've ended 9-8 every time. And I'm not sure that's going to be enough to hold off the Ravens from taking that number one spot in the AFC North. Next game to look at. This game shocked me when I looked at the score line. 35-6. The Jags took down the Chargers at home. And all this season, I've been talking about Trevor Lawrence is the reason they're being held back, and they won't be able to compete without Trevor Lawrence being better. Trevor Lawrence definitely was good this game, but that run game in Jacksonville was so pretty. Byshal Tootin, 15 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown. He is a little 5'9", 209 ball of muscle, man. I don't know how he's listed at 209. He's probably 215, 220 at least by now. Him and Travis Etienne, this game especially, their contact balance, their ability to just stay on their feet and keep moving forward for yards was super impressive. There was 4 or 5 plays where they should have gone down earlier and they just were able to push forward for an extra 4 or 5. So their run game really, even LaQuint Allen Jr. got 8 carries in this game. So it was really nice to see Jacksonville, if you're a Jacksonville fan, that they have that run game to rely on. Like I mentioned earlier, Trevor Lawrence, I thought he played good. I thought he played even better than Justin Herbert. Now, looking at Justin Herbert, right? Look at the stat line. 10 of 18, 81 yards, and an interception. Trey Lance had to come in. He had a great play at the end of the game, but it's Trey Lance. He's not going to be able to do much. If you're just looking at the stat line, Justin Herbert was terrible. But if you watch how terrible that offensive line was against a good, competent Jaguars pass rush that was getting a lot of hype earlier in this season, it's just like any quarterback in that system would fail. Not even Justin Herbert, who week after week has had probably one of the least or the lowest times to throw in the entire league. Justin Herbert was able to manage with that, but not in this game. The O-line just completely gave up on him. And he had probably around 2 seconds to throw on average in this entire game. And it was just embarrassing. You have these injuries and you want a competent team behind, in your backups that are going to be able to hold up, especially in your tackle positions. Not a chance. And Herbert can move around the pocket well, but when the Jags, when the edge rushers get around the tackles and they box Herbert in, there's almost nothing he or any quarterback could do, so I'm not blaming him too much for this loss. Also, with that O-line, they weren't able to get the running game going. Their top running back with most carries was Kamani Vidal, only at 5. So it's hard, they didn't really give the running game too much a chance, but they weren't able to get anything going today, so it was really hard for them. I think I want to talk about Keenan Allen real quick. I think in this game, I saw it a lot more. He's still a pretty capable and semi-athletic veteran. And when you can get a veteran who has some athleticism and they're Keenan Allen, when he got traded back here, it's oh, it's his retirement time. It's just his last season. He's going to come back and just be on the roster. He's playing probably their best or second best wide receiver on this roster, which doesn't sound great, but he actually is performing to that level. He led their team receiving today, 4 catches, 53 yards. He had a 30-yard. That was his longest, but yeah, it's really rough because I've been hating on the Jaguars, really hyping up the Chargers. Not great for my narratives, but I'm definitely down. If the Jags want to be a playoff team, I'm all for it. That's the closest NFL team to where I'm at right now. So love to see hype for the Jags. Chargers is a bad loss, right? If your tackles were able to play better this game, you might have won it. And it was a 29-point loss. That was the difference between the two teams. And it almost entirely came down to their offensive line. Now time to look at my favorite game of this week. My Carolina Panthers moved to 6-5 after the overtime victory over the Atlanta Falcons in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And my stud of the week, probably a little bias going in this one, is Bryce Young. 31 of 45, 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Bryce Young looked the best I may have ever seen him in this game. And it's so hard as a Bryce Young fan to get excited because the moment you get excited about Bryce Young, he shoots your expectations right in the foot and he plays like trash. So I'm not going to get too excited for Bryce Young yet. But what a game, man. His improbability and his deep and like medium accuracy down the field looks so good in this game, and it's so hard not to get excited for him. But what a day from Bryce Young. T-Mac had some really nice plays. In my opinion, he's definitely a top 15, top 20 receiver in the league right now. And definitely, I think he should be ahead of Ibuka for Rookie of the Year because Emeka Ibuka's production has shot down recently, but even without Rico Dowdle running it very well, Atlanta clearly focused on that this game. He had about 20 carries, only 45 yards, right? Bryce Young was able to step up. He did have a few silly plays, right? But his ability to come back from those, like when the fourth down where he trips and gets like stepped on. Oh my gosh, I was a little worried during that one, but just such an elite game from Bryce Young against a defense who has had many competent performances against really good teams. So excited from this game. Try not to get myself too hyped because I've been here before. I've been a Panthers fan for my entire time watching football. And every time Bryce Young does this, he kind of shoots these expectations right back down the next week. But very exciting from Bryce Young. He is again my stud of the week over the entire slate. Probably a little biased, definitely for sure. But yeah, Carolina got this win. It was a comeback for sure. Bijan Robinson was tearing up our entire defensive line earlier this game. If they just ran away from Derek Brown, Bijan was getting at least 15 yards. They can't run up the middle because Derek Brown's. Was he playing this game? I believe he was. Maybe he wasn't. Oh, well, that makes sense. That's why Bijan was able to kill us. Okay. Because I was a little worried. I was like, why is Derek Brown not producing like that? Obviously, without Derek Brown, our run defense is pitiful, right? And that was definitely on display today. Bijan over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the Bijan Robinson I know. That's the Bijan I haven't been able to see over the last few weeks. But he put it on put it on display against my Panthers, unfortunately. But we still got the win, so I'm super happy about that. I think that the Panthers defense, even though they were getting tore up in the run game for sure, near the end of this game, when it was, the most crucial time, they were able to make enough plays and stop Atlanta, especially once Kirk got on the field. I don't think Kirk Cousins is a very competent player or quarterback right now. In terms of backups, he's probably just a mediocre backup. There's not too many good options right now in the league, but Falcons season is cooked. That's all I got to say. You moved to 3-7. You don't have your first round pick. What is your plan now? Your roster looks solid going into the year. Now Penix is really badly hurt. Like, I have nothing to say for Falcons fans except for I feel sorry for you, right? Like, Drake London looks amazing. He's looked amazing this entire season. This game, 7 catches, 119 yards. Like, he's been balling every single time. But if you can't get these wins, right? If you're, there's always just something that goes wrong with this team. Something's off about the Falcons. And like, if you have that this many times, something's got to change. And it's probably their coaching, probably their entire I saw a Falcons fan on TikTok was just like fire everybody, and like at this point, it's hard to argue with that because I can't point to too many roster holes right now for them that would be the reason they're losing this many games. Dave Canales had some really gutsy like fourth downs. He went for it probably 5 times this game on fourth down, and I liked it for now. But normally, I'm not too big a fan of that coaching style. Like, it really turns out for the worst a lot of the time. Look at the Packers. Look at the floor. Like, I don't love it. I loved it in this game, obviously, but a little scary if we're going to do that in the future. We do have the Niners next week. I'm so excited for that game because that kind of feels like a trap game we could come into, and like then we're for real, but not sure. It's CMC's return. He will definitely light us up and destroy us. But yeah, great game takeaway for me as a Panthers fan. And just the Falcons are just like, they're just cooked. That's all I got to say for the Falcons fans right now. Next game to look at, this was early in the morning in Spain, in Real Madrid Stadium. The Bernabeu, I think is how you say it. I hope I said that right. Um, this was a game. Dolphins get another win. They moved to 4-7, and the Commanders moved to 3-8. I kind of want to talk Commanders real quick. When you have a season where you make it to the NFC Championship last year, you're obviously hoping and expecting way more. But I think their magic has just run out. even when Jaden Daniels was there, it's not like Marcus Mariota is playing much worse than Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota looks like one of the best backups in the league right now. This game, 20 for 30, 213, a touchdown and a pick. It's not like Marcus Mariota is the problem. I think it's just it's their coaching and it's their roster. Like Debo Samuel looked solid this one, 7 catches, 74. You saw his impact on the field, especially with that touchdown he had. Chris Rodriguez led their backfield really well, giving him kind of the heavier share of carries this week was definitely a good decision. I mean, he had over 5 yards per carry, but they just don't have what it takes, right, to win games in the NFL right now. They don't have. I mean, I'm sitting here talking like Debo Samuel's your leading receiver, Chris Rodriguez Jr. is your leading back. It's just not enough, and this is such a competitive season with so many good teams. There's so many realities where the Commanders are one of those teams in the conversation, and they just didn't make the cut this year. For the Dolphins, this is a nice game, right? Nice win, I guess. If you want a higher draft pick, too bad, right? Mike McDaniel's trying to save his job. He's doing a pretty darn good job at that, but Tua looked fine in this one. He didn't really have any egregious mistakes, which is what you've been asking from Tua. I think this is his first game in a minute without a pick. But 14 of 20, 171 yards is pretty solid. Um, Obviously, the guy that won them this game and has been winning them all their games is Devon Achane. 21 carries, 121 yards, and through the air, he had 5 catches for 45. Devon Achane's been that leading back, and you got to love their tandem with Ollie Gordon and Achane. Ollie Gordon, he's looked really good, and it's been consistency as their second back, as their power back. He's done a great job in goal line situations. He had a touchdown in this game. Just like, I really wish they would have traded Devon Achane so he could see him in the playoffs. But because they didn't, their outlook for the future in that running room or in that running back room looks really nice. But yeah, I think this was two poor teams going against each other. Kind of in prime time. I don't know if they count that as prime time. I don't think so. But yeah, Dolphins got the win. Dolphins might be one of those teams who, at the end of the season, goes and stacks up a bunch of wins, makes their draft pick way worse, and barely doesn't make the playoffs. Commanders are out of it. They are really lost right now as a roster, and something, again, needs to change for them. Next game to look at, this most exciting game of the week, probably. There were two really good ones. We're going to get to the next one after this, but the Buffalo Bills at home take a win versus the Buccaneers, ends 44-32. In Buffalo, this game, it was close throughout the whole thing, right? But their big plays won them this game. It's kind of been Buffalo's mantra over the last few years, their ability to let Josh Allen just hurl the ball down the field. There are a few really big ones. One of them came from Tyrell Shavers, who had 90 yards and a touchdown on this one. Just a guy I didn't know his name, right? I didn't know Tyrell Shavers at all, but I think this isn't his first game where he's been getting involved. But if you want to start throwing Shavers in there more, especially with the Keon Coleman, I believe he missed like a meeting or something, and they just kept him out of this game, which is completely understandable, especially with his production this season. But Tyrell Shavers looked great. James cooked. He did look pretty cooked in the run game. He only had 16 carries for 48 yards. Tampa Bay did a nice job shutting down their run game, except for Josh Allen, who had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Insane. But through the air, James Cook, he had 66 yards and a touchdown, so they weren't able to stop him completely. Ty Johnson, also the backup running back, who normally gets the blunt of the receiving yards from that backfield. He also had a really big play, 61 yards and a touchdown on 2 catches for him. Gabe Davis getting more involved as well, 3 catches, 40 yards. Love to see him back in action. Former UCF alum, go Knights. But it's nice win for the Bills for sure. This game for them, like to me, puts them back in that like tier 1 team in the AFC, because after those losses they've been taking recently, it's like, what is going on right now? A win against a good team, which is something the Bucs haven't been able to get. Bucs moved to 6-4 right now. They are one win away from the Panthers from being second in the NFC South right now. And like this team, I commend them, and I commended them last week for being able to beat bad teams pretty well, pretty easily. But they just can't beat the upper level teams, right? New England was able to take them down in a competitive battle for sure, but they won. Like, they definitely won that game. Buccaneers definitely lost this game against Buffalo. It's not some ridiculous thing. Their run game looked incredible. Sean Tucker, 19 carries. They gave him a lot of trust this game, and he came through. 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rashad White was balling this game on the ground and through the air. He had, I guess he only had 2 catches, but he had 50 yards on the ground on 10 attempts. Baker able to run it pretty well. The run game wasn't the problem. It was their passing game for sure in this one. Sterling Shepard was their leading receiver. Ibuka, he only caught half his targets. Like, they didn't get Cade Otton involved almost at all. Only 2 catches for him. It's like, you need that pass game to get going, especially because you're supposed to have this great rookie and enough weapons in Baker Mayfield, who was in MVP conversations earlier this season. That's supposed to be a capable team, right? For sure. There's plenty of teams who don't have as much receiving talent as they do and are still thriving right now. So the Buccaneers, I can't be too in on them in the playoffs. I'm willing to bet a lot of money right now that the Bucs are going to be first round exits. They're going to come in with that 4 seed. They're probably going to go against the Seahawks or the Niners or maybe like the Packers even, because they're not even the 1 seed in their division right now. So not great for the Bucs. Another win, and I said this last time against the Patriots. They just aren't able to beat these good teams, and that's going to haunt them, especially looking to January. The next big game from this week, the LA Rams at home squeezed out a victory versus Seattle, 21-19. Seattle had a chance to win it late with a field goal, weren't able to come up big. I've been hyping up Matthew Stafford a lot. This game wasn't great from him, right? 15 completions on 28 attempts, only 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. A lot of their drives just stalled out because they weren't able to get the pass game going. But the difference between Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold is mistakes. Like I've been saying for weeks, Matthew Stafford plays mistake-free football. And my argument that he's better now than he was in that Super Bowl season is I'm just not seeing any mistakes, like big mistakes coming from Matthew Stafford. Sam Darnold, story of his career so far after the Jets, gets a few starts, looks pretty good, gets to a big game, poops the bed immediately. He will be our stinker of the week. 29 completions, 279 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And these weren't like tip ball interceptions. These were seeing ghost interceptions, as Sam Darnold would probably put it. They weren't able to get their run game going like crazy. Walker and Charbonnet both had some solid gains, but nothing consistent enough. I think if they can nail that consistency down and they can make the run game their identity, because you kind of have to move that away from Sam Darnold, the passing game. If you can get Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet rotating carries, getting 5 yards per carry a game, which they weren't, able to do. 11 carries for Charbonnet, 37 yards. 16 carries for Kenneth Walker, 67 yards. So it's just like you need more from one aspect of their offense because they both have plenty of talent. Jackson Smith and Jigba, so much talent over there. He had an incredible one-handed catch on the sideline, just classic reach the hand out, pull it in, step out of bounds. Gorgeous. I don't think he's had a game under 100 yards. Not that I can remember this season. He has looked tremendous so far. In my opinion, he's number 3. Wherever you want to put Jefferson, wherever you want to put Chase, then Jackson Smith and Jigba this season. But Darnold can't play like this if they want to have playoff success. And every time Darnold's been in one of these big spots with Minnesota, like, he just didn't come through. And I could easily see that happening in the future. Now, this isn't like the Rams blew them out. Like, the Seahawks almost somehow won this game. And you also need the Rams to have a better offense. Yes, they're probably going against the best defense in the league. But when you let it be this close, right, you need more. I think, personally, they really need to rely on Kyren Williams more. Early this game, he was dominating. He had like 70 yards probably in the first 2 drives. He ended with 91 on 12 carries and a touchdown. Kyren Williams is a freaking baller. Blake Corum wasn't able to get going at all today. 8 carries for 10 yards, which, as I talked about, if you're able to get Blake Corum to be a reliable back, kind of like they have Charbonnet in Seattle. Obviously, they're not as consistent as we'd hope. But 8 carries for 10 yards, that's nowhere near enough. And when Kyren Williams has a few bad plays and you give Blake Corum a series, he can't put up these kind of numbers. It's just not enough for them. But they're still probably my favorites in the entire league to win the Super Bowl this year, just because every team is mid. Every single team is mid right now. And this is a good win for them. They're able to get the victory against Seattle. Was at home. Probably would be different in Seattle. I'm not sure if they already played this year, if they play later in the season. But Rams are still probably my favorites this year to come out of the NFC. Next game to look at. This was another huge game this week. Not record-wise, but everybody knows KC is super good. But not good enough to beat Denver. Denver moves to 9-2 after the 22-19 victory over the Chiefs. This was a defensive battle. That kind of defined this game. 22-19 doesn't look like a defensive battle, but these are two very capable offenses, two offenses that they can definitely get going. Like as we've seen in the past, both these teams have put up barn burners where it's just like 40-point games on both sides, but both these Denver probably, if they're not one, they're probably two or three defenses in the league able to kind of shut down Mahomes in this one. Mahomes 29-45, 279, a touchdown and a pretty bad pick. Um, so kind of rough on the Chiefs side. Kareem Hunt did solid, 13 carries, 59 yards, and a touchdown. And if they would just rely on that run game a little more, I would definitely be a little more confident in this team. I think without Pacheco this week, they were a little probably scared, especially going into this game against the Broncos. But they weren't able to score enough points. They had plenty of offensive drives to do it, and they just weren't able to. Kelsey looked really nice in this one. Later in the game, he wasn't able to get going too much early, but 9 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. It's really nice. Tyquan Thornton had a beautiful Moss late in this game as well. Rashee Rice, he continues to put up these 6 catches, 38-yard kind of performances where he's just doing all these short routes, and it's crazy for a guy who's like fast. He's like quick. Like we knew that coming out of college, he was able to do that. But they like using him in this sense in their offense, and it seems to be working pretty well. But they are 5-5. The Chiefs aren't in the playoffs right now, and this game, like it is against a good team, but this is scary for sure. But because the Broncos defense, which is like no one can stop the Chiefs. The Chiefs were just like so good that who's gonna like no defense was able to stop Mahomes. It definitely doesn't look like that this year. It kind of looked like that last year as well, where like the inability to stop the Chiefs, it was like kind of becoming real. It's definitely real this season. I think Bo Nix came up pretty clutch kind of near the end of this game. No touchdowns or picks for him, 295 yards. 24 completions on 37 attempts is pretty solid, right? From Bo Nix. So nice to see him do this after that stinky Raiders game he had last week. But a good win for the Chiefs for sure, or for the Broncos, right? 9-2. This is a statement win. This is another team that they've been able to beat that is actually good, kind of like the Eagles earlier this season. So you kind of have to give the Broncos some credit. I'm not loving it too much just because the lack of talent they have and how close so many of their games have been this season. But you have to give them credit. They did beat the Chiefs. A lot of teams have beat the Chiefs this year, but they have done it as well. They lost J.K. Dobbins, which is super unfortunate for them. RJ Harvey didn't look great this game. He just wasn't able to get much going. Still, credit to the Chiefs defense. They are very good, probably a top 10 at least defense in the league right now. But Denver was just able to get enough late in the game. Clutchness. You talk about clutchness. Mahomes didn't have it today or on Sunday. He didn't have it. And somehow Bo Nix out clutched Patrick Mahomes in this one, and Broncos were able to walk away with a victory. Next game I want to look at, this was prime time. This was Sunday Night Football, and my turn on Game of Thrones stinker or turn on Game of Thrones worst game of the week, I guess. I have to give it to Philadelphia, Detroit. It's funny because I was actually watching Game of Thrones right before this game, and I would have probably rather been watching anything than this game. I hate that they gave the Eagles so many primetime spots this year because every time there's an Eagles game, I don't want to turn it on. I don't want to watch it. That's probably a credit to their defense, which was very nice in this one. Held the Lions to just 9 points. Held Goff to his worst game in years, 14-37, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. There was zero consistency with him today. Jameson Williams was pretty good for them. So was Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, we know Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be good, especially in the passing game. He only had 39 yards on the ground, but 107 through the air. Jameson Williams had 88 and a touchdown through the air. Eagles, great job shutting down the run. Great job shutting down Amon-Ra. Even better job shutting down Goff. And like when in this year, when there's so many contenders, right? This game, again, it's just looking like two mediocre teams. Lions moved to 6-4. That's not I think they're third in their division right now. There's a real chance the Lions don't make the playoffs this season. That's like hard, to take in, but Dan Campbell takes over play calling. It's not enough to beat the Eagles, that's for sure. Credit to the Lions defense. They did a pretty solid job. I think it's more on the Eagles offense for just not being efficient week after week. I've been talking about this, how the Eagles offense, has been not enough, how they've been lacking every single time. Saquon Barkley continues to not be able to put up numbers, 26 carries for 83 yards. When is he going to get going? Obviously, he's the focus of a lot of defenses. But can you just rely on your pass game? Can you rely on Devonta Smith, who only had one catch this game? A.J. Brown had 7 catches, only not even 50 yards for him. It's just kind of like a sad real. Like I'm leaning back because it's just like Eagles are 8-2, but like how? How are the Eagles 8-2 when their offense has just been this lackluster this entire season? Um, I think like with the Lions offense, right, being so it's propped up. I talked about their talent. No Laporta this game, which I'm not going to be able to blame that for them only putting 9 points on the board. But like Eagles defense is definitely for real. Kind of another team we were talking about, probably another top 5 defense. If we're looking at talent, right? Two super talented sides. Eagles definitely have one of the most talented, you know, offense or defense, one of the most talented sides of the football in all of football. Just so many guys who are able to shut you down. And there's nowhere you can go to where it's like, all right, we can expose this hole. There's not really one in the entire Eagles defense. And that's why they were able to walk away from this game with a win like they did. But yeah, super boring. Hate freaking the Eagles on primetime. It kills me. Next game to look at, Chicago Bears going to Minnesota. This game was kind of like, well, when I started watching it, right, it's like just some awful quarterback play. In the first 6 minutes, Caleb Williams made some sloppy throws. J.J. McCarthy definitely made some sloppy throws. After that, it kind of got a little bit better. Excuse me. Thank you. Bless me. Thank you. That's a Quinn and Williams reference. I hope you guys get that. But J.J. McCarthy in the past game had the rough start. Both him and Caleb Williams actually went 16-32. That's pretty funny. But Caleb Williams was kind of able to come back later. Excuse me. Well, I'm going through everything right now. J.J. McCarthy was not able to scramble like Williams, not able to make plays like Williams, and that's why he really ended up with a poor game. 2 bad interceptions. So many times he overthrew Jefferson. Oh, just so scared to make a play. He just overthrows everyone. The run game looked pretty nice today. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, backfield by committee, has been working a lot this year. They're adopting that in their system. Mason, a little bit more of the power guy, I think, although he did break off a nice run for a touchdown. Aaron Jones, like I talked about last week, Aaron Jones looked really nice so far this season, for sure, especially because a lot of guys wrote him off after he left Green Bay. But it wasn't enough. Chicago, they even had a missed field goal, went down late, super late, nice return, set him up well. They were able to knock it through and defeat Minnesota, who Minnesota's outlook on the season, it's over. You're not going to be able to make playoffs in that competitive NFC for sure. And you have to look at J.J. McCarthy as his job is not safe. J.J. McCarthy has put up so many performances. And if he could just have 2 weeks in a row where he was consistent or where he was, you know, a guy who looked like a leader and not scared every play, maybe you could believe in J.J. McCarthy. Maybe you could see him as a for sure option as your quarterback of the future. It's just such a far reach in my mind. And probably for a lot of Vikings fans, they're probably sick of J.J. McCarthy by now. Jefferson, as we talked about, he did have 9 targets, but only caught 5 of them for 61. I'm not blaming that on him, of course. Um, Jordan Addison, he had 7 targets, and a lot of them he kind of flunked the bet on, but in their like almost game-winning drive, almost game-winning touchdown, he did catch it. He made a pretty nice play over a defender. So nice to see Jordan Addison get something out of this game because he did not look very good. Chicago passing game kind of struggled a little bit. They were able to spread the ball around pretty well, but they didn't get much going. DeAndre Swift had a good one, especially against a good defense in Minnesota. Like 21 carries for 90 yards is very solid. Kyle Monangai got like 2 yards per carry. He did have a touchdown because, of course, Kyle Monangai did, but he wasn't able to get anything going, which we talked about them. Like, we want this to be like the Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift of the past. Need more from a Monangai for sure if you're looking at that as a future for them. But Chicago's outlook, you're 7-3, you're atop the NFC North. This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted this season. Ben Johnson's system, it's integrated now. I've been talking about how they're slowly getting that in, and it took them, a rough start to get Ben Johnson, to get his culture kind of integrated in the team. It really looks like they have that now. It really looks like they're really locked in this season. Vikings, what do you want to do with McCarthy? If you want to have, you know, If you want to tank the rest of the season and maybe try to get a quarterback in this mediocre class, you can do that. Probably you ride with him another year, see if he develops a lot over the offseason, which is definitely possible. He's definitely a guy who's made plenty of flashes this season so far. But like this could definitely lead to another year of just scared football from their quarterback. Next game to look at. This game was also pretty rough to watch. But Davis Mills and the Houston Texans beat the Tennessee Titans. This one was super close throughout the whole way. But Davis Mills, they were able to work up a game-winning drive at the end of this one. Woody Marks wasn't able to do much. 18 carries for 44 yards. I mean, what's new? Woody Marks has only had a few nice games, and like I don't think he's going to be an option in the future for this offense. Nico Collins was pretty slow kind of at the start, ended the game with 9 catches and 92 yards and a touchdown. That was all pretty clutch from him. Schultz, 6 catches, 51. Jaden Higgins, 4 catches, 55. They're able to spread the ball around pretty well. I talked about Schultz and Collins. Those are their two guys they can rely on. They did that this game, but only in the second half. Tennessee's defense looked pretty solid. They were able to get to Mills pretty well. They got 4 sacks this game. There was a play. I don't know why I'm thinking of Harold Landry now because he's not on this team anymore. This was in New England. I'm going on a tangent. Justin Fields took the wrong read option in that game. Harold Landry's right there to make the tackle, and Justin Fields just outruns him to the corner. Super, super weird tangent. I can't believe Harold Landry's not on this team anymore. I totally associate him with Tennessee. What's new? Tennessee run game sucked. Cam Ward ended with more rushing yards than Tony Pollard, and Tony Pollard had 10 carries. He was their leading back. Tajay Spears, 4 carries for 3 yards. Longest rush of the game, 1 yard. I mean, you got to get something new. In terms of offensive line, I think Tony Pollard probably could do good behind a good O-line. I think most running backs in the league can do – any running back really in the league can do good behind a good O-line. And that's why I'm still believing in Cam Ward. It's going to take a lot for me to stop believing in him. No picks this game, but he did still have a turnover. He had a fumble. But 24-37, 194 yards and a touchdown obviously isn't great. I think Texans defense held up in this game, and it's not like they weren't good and the offense was able to do some things, but the defense just wasn't able to hold up. This was their defense keeping the Texans in this game, and Cam Ward having to make a few plays, which he did, especially in like their last drive. It was a really, really nice drive from Ward. Ward had a nice scramble, one nice pass, and then a really nice deep touchdown from Ward. So their pass game, that one drive, looked immaculate, right? So it's really nice to see those flashes from him. I wasn't expecting Cam Ward to be this pro-ready quarterback. I don't think anyone who was knowledgeable in the draft thought Cam Ward was going to be a guy who's going to step in and be, some force that's going to elevate everyone else. And I think he's doing a solid job, the best probably he could do with this team, but they are giving him nothing. I mean, Tony Pollard, Chiga Okonkwo is their leading receiver this game. You got to give him more weapons. You got to give him more help for sure. Next game to look at, I am credited and now a proud Packers hater. I'm just kidding. But Packers did take a win versus the Giants, 27-20. Jameis Winston almost was able to beat the Packers this game. I thought Jameis had a pretty good game. He had like a few nice QB sneaks, right? I think he scored a touchdown that way. He had like a 10-yard QB sneak as well. He was managing the game pretty well up until the end, and he throws this terrible, terrible interception. Just broke my heart. Just made me so sad because it's like everyone wants to see Jameis do good, but he does this. It's super, super upsetting, but a close game, right? Another game that's super close that the Giants don't end up winning. Kind of nice if you're a Giants fan and you want a nice high pick in the draft, kind of add some more talent to a pretty talented roster who's been going through a lot of injuries, obviously holding them back. But the Packers, you have to be scared if you're a Packers fan. Again, another week. They didn't end up losing this one, right? But another week where it's just super close with a team they shouldn't be this competitive with. In all honesty, like I think their defense has so much talent. One of the most talented rosters, defensive-wise on the football, probably just rosters in the league, period. But I got to believe it's their coaching that's holding them back. It's just failing that talent on their roster. Like 20 points? You let the Giants score 20. You let Tyrone Tracy go for 88 yards. Devin Singletary goes for 44 and 2 touchdowns. It's just like you want more. This team is so talented. Like I want to see guys flourish, and I don't think that can happen under LaFleur. I've been calling for LaFleur's job for a while. I don't think he makes the right decisions. Your offense should operate better than this. Jordan Love had a solid game. 13 completions for 24 attempts isn't great, but 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. Is Emmanuel Wilson got more carries than Josh Jacobs this game for some reason? I don't know. They both ended up with 40 yards. Emmanuel Wilson did have a touchdown. They were able to pass the ball pretty well today. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, ball got spread around pretty well to them, but like, yes, it's a win, and a win is a win in football. But just like Green Bay, you're gonna be in the playoffs probably, right? It's probably gonna be pretty hard for them to sell this playoff spot. I think they're seated sixth right now, but like something's got to change. They have to figure something out to where they're not going to be first round exits, which I'd be pretty confident in saying they're not going to make it to the divisional round this season for sure. Last game to take a peek at this week. The Niners walked into State Farm Arena in Arizona and defeated the Cardinals 41-22. This was a pretty funky game. Eddie Pinheiro, former Panthers kicker, had his first extra point blocked. Then he just missed the second one. So the scoreline's a little funky, especially because they went for two and missed it as well. But Jacoby Brissett just set the NFL record for completions in a game. 452 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 picks from him. And it's going to sound weird for me to say this right after a performance like that. I'd like to see Kyler Murray. It's not like Brissett was balling out there. Like the checkdowns, the Michael Wilson game. Michael Wilson is going to earn our Know My Name Player of the Week. I did Player of the Week. That was the Darnell Washington. But yeah, Michael Wilson. I wasn't aware. I wasn't in the know about Michael Wilson, I guess. Third-year man out of Stanford, I believe. He had 15 catches for 185 yards. That's incredible. Trey McBride also had 10 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. Greg Dortch behind him. Love his long hair and the stash. 6 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. Everyone was getting the ball today. The run game obviously didn't get going, but I'm not going to. Jacoby Brissett had 57 attempts. It's not like it's the run game's fault or Bam Knight or DeMarcado's fault, for any of that. But Jacoby Brissett, they just let him sling the rock today, and he kind of came through. Like that completion percentage is pretty nice. His 2 picks were pretty bad. So I'd want to see Kyler back in there because what are you getting out of Jacoby Brissett? Jacoby Brissett's not going to be Geno Smith. And even if he is, we've seen that Geno Smith isn't going to be able to hold on for that talent or that lightning in the bottle he had in Seattle for very long. I don't understand. I think Kyler's on IR, but it was like he was going to come back and then they put him on IR. I don't understand. He was probably going to start. Brissett was probably going to start over him anyway. So just a weird one. It is a nice, a good defense they're going against, and Jacoby Brissett having 47 completions against the Niners defenses, it's nothing to like scoff at, like I kind of am right now. I just want a little more, especially because this team, when they were 2-5, it was like, oh, we're looking at one of the best 2-5 teams I've ever seen. Well, they go to Brissett, now they're 3-7 with no playoff hopes. It's just like they're gonna end up probably, I don't know, 6-13, 7-12. That add up? I don't think it does. 7-10, 7-10, 6-11. This season, and just not get a great draft pick, and their future is going to look a little bleak. Their head coach, whose name is escaping me at this current, Jonathan Gannon, right? He's probably going to get fired soon. He was definitely on the hot seat earlier. It's kind of cooled off for some reason. I'm not sure why. Gannon's probably gone. It's just another roster that's pretty darn talented. Maybe on offense they're lacking some of that. Maybe on defense too. Maybe they're not that talented. They just need a new direction. I think a new coach maybe might be the answer. I don't think Gannon's the problem. But if you want to get a new quarterback in there, I don't hate that. I understand it for sure. On the Niners side of things, a good win, right? We know the Cardinals can be competent for sure. Brock Purdy, who I've been saying for weeks, I'm like, all right, I want this team to be good. If this team wants to be a Super Bowl contender, Purdy's got to come in and be a lot better than Mac Jones. He's got to show a new level, add a new component of improvisation, and just being able to move around the pocket and be a threat, And he looked fine, like 19-26, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks is pretty good. And I don't think they were asking him too much in this game. It was a lot of scheme. It's Shanahan offense. Like he's gonna just operate in that scheme. But he didn't make any crazy throws, anything like that. But I'm not faulting him. I do want to see him against a good team. I think it's gonna be hard against the Panthers because our defense is terrible. But maybe in the coming weeks we'll get to see if Brock Purdy is going to be able to win in battles, and real heats against good defenses. Christian McCaffrey, man, I'm a big fan of this guy. 81 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 40 yards through the air, another touchdown to make it 3. Kittle had a good game, 6 catches for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. Juwan Jennings, he's been nice, incorporated in this offense. He's been a real all right, they're trusting Juwan Jennings with this receiver 2 or uh, I guess receiver 1 spot. Ricky Pearsall only had 1 catch for 0 yards, but yeah, nice win for the Niners. Nice to another game this week where it's like the right team won, probably how they should have. But a funky one. Cool to see Jacoby Brissett break that record, I guess. Last thing for this episode, I wanted to throw something kind of fun in. So I picked like 3 random Olympic events, just completely random ones, and see who would be the best NFL players at these events. So the first event I've picked is dressage, which is more commonly known as horse dancing. Um, and I think my selection in this game was an elegant player who can be really light on their feet. Maybe they'd be able to connect with the horse or something. And on that aspect, I got to go with Xavier Leggett. But kind of for the sake of fun, not actually taking into account who has the most experience on horses, I'm going to go with Chase Brown. Talked about in this episode, his ability to make quick cuts and just get to the outside fast. I think he'd be the perfect dressage jockey. I believe that's the right terminology there. Next one I want to look at, this is race walking. Everybody knows, I'm sure, what race walking is. And I thought I might want a smaller running back who can just move their feet the fastest. But I ended up going with 2 guys. Kyle Pitts, who we know he's an athletic freak. He's a former track star, which I'm sure might help him probably in this aspect. And I also went with Stephon Diggs. Finishing my Pitts thought. I think his big build, right? He's probably got strong legs. He's probably got great endurance. I think he could be perfect because he's not going to tire out. He's not going to run out of energy. His legs aren't going to give out on him. I think he'd be a tremendous race walker. And I also think Stephon Diggs, can't you just see Stephon Diggs in running shorts or something like that? Cardi B's at every stop, cheering him on or something like that. And his he's also a pretty agile guy, but he's got a solid frame, probably around 6 foot, probably around 6'1". So those are my picks for race walking. The final one to look at is trampoline gymnastics. And this one was super interesting. I did some research in this one. Who knew that Trent Brown, the offensive tackle for the Patriots, was a former gymnast? I didn't know that. So Trent Brown, he's going to make this list just off his experience and in his past. I mean, I could easily see Trent Brown being elegant and floating or something like that. I don't know if he can do a flip, but my probably most realistic answer would be George Pickens. We've all seen George Pickens go up and make a crazy athletic stretch catch. I could also see George Pickens in the shiesty on the trampoline, some elegant crazy flip, sticks the landing, neck down like when he was drafted. So those are my picks for the most random Olympic events with the NFL players. Hope you guys had fun with that. And I hope you guys had fun with this episode. It was super fun to film. Love getting to talk to the audience, and just doing this is super fun. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Just remember that God and Jesus loves you guys. I love you guys. And have a great day.